Hello, win women, the world. This is the Joys of Living Great. Our featured program is one that's different from any of the other programs that you may see on the Win Women Network. This program is set to give women of the world, no matter where you are, no matter what your culture is, no matter what your language is, no matter what your ideals are, to give you the keys to having joy in life. Our motto is joy is everything. And we live by the fact that we believe that God provides our joy. So today we have been doing for the month of August a series on back to school. Back to school can be the time in some folks' lives where it is quite a transition. We're getting the children ready to go back to school. We're getting ourselves perhaps to even go back to school. And there are so many different people who play a role in going back to school. When we think about it, we thought we had all the roles covered. And then we discovered, no, you're forgetting, like the people who really help, like the bus drivers and the teaching assistants and those people. We didn't think about them right away, but we know how important their roles are. Today, we're talking about the grandparents' role in going back to school. Grandparents play such an important role in going back to school because it's what we as grandparents, and I say we because I am a grandparent, it's what we know that we have learned from our parents and grandparents that we pass on to our children. So there are many grandparents today who are actually in a parenting role for whatever reason. They're taking on the role of raising, actually having their grandchildren live with them. They have to do all of the support for their grandchildren that their children would do. So grandparents being in that special role is what we're going to talk about today. I think our first probably part that we can cover pretty well, that everybody might have something to chime in on, is, can you remember what role or what actions or what actually did your grandparents do when you were getting ready to go back to school?
I can remember my grandmother buying me new school clothes. So that was a joy for me because to go with your grandmother, and she spoiled me because I was her only granddaughter. So that was a joy as well. Just to go get new school, what do you want? And she always asked me, what would you like? What do you want? So I had a choice to choose anything, I chose anything I wanted, and she usually would buy it for me. So that was a pretty, to me, because I was a little spoiled. So, and she was my best grandmother, of course. And the other one was, well, she was good, but anyway. But this is very, 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 since I was her only grand. So whenever we went school shopping for clothes, she would buy me, what I wanted. Would you like, do you like this? Do you like that? And I was really, I was in heaven.
You were spoiled, Brenda.
Yeah, I was.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have experiences where your grandparents actually stepped in or did something, even if it was just one thing, when you were getting ready to go back to school?
Yes, my grandmom, she lived away from us. So it was my mother's mother. So during that time, she would come stay with us. at the beginning of the school year, stay a good month because we lived in New Jersey, she lived in Virginia. So she would come help out because it was 5 of us. And she would help
Oh,
out.
wow.
Yeah, she'll help out with the cooking, getting the kids ready, everything a mom would do. Because that's the same thing my my great grandmother did for her mother. Same thing was a tradition to help out with the kids because it was a responsibility. Cooking, we didn't eat out, so every meals were always cooked. So you had to cook, and we used to take our lunch too. Even though the school might serve lunch, we was kind of choosy eaters, and we make sure we could pack lunch. And my mom would and grandmother would pack the kids' lunch and help us out with all those things, getting dressed, shopping for school, all those things.
So your grandmother was right there, hands-on,
Yeah, but she made that trip to come to us because she lived
just for that.
just for that. Yes.
Okay. So it was a tradition passed down from your family. That's great that she was able to carry on that tradition.
Yes.
Anybody else? Can you tell us what your grandparents or your loved ones who were in an outer circle like grandparents that may have done something at the time that you were getting ready to go back to school? I wanted to share, I can tell you about my grandmother because I lived with her. So I guess I was kind of spoiled like Brenda, but the difference was every year it was the same thing. It was not, what would you like? It was saddle Oxford shoes, one pair of saddle Oxford shoes, one pair. You're laughing. Everybody know what saddle Oxford shoes are? Yeah. Oh, you don't know, Katrina? Oh, well. Well, you guys have got to Google saddle Oxford shoes, okay? So I got a pair of saddle Oxford shoes, and I got a pair of black patent leather shoes. Those were for dress. The saddle Oxfords were for school. And I got a pair of, not sneakers, tennis shoes. So I got a pair of tennis shoes, okay? So those were my shoes, and that was the way it was. And because my grandmother was a seamstress, all of my dresses were made. And I wish that she would ask me what colors I wanted, but she didn't, because she would use whatever materials she could buy with the money that she could afford. And she got her money selling the ice pops to the kids after school in the little plastic cups. She freeze Kool-Aid and sell it to them, and they come by our house and get it. And that was the money she had to use. So whatever she could buy in terms of material that was on sale, and if it didn't match, it didn't match. I think I was probably the first person going to school that had polka dots and stripes, and that was not in at the time, but that's what she had. So she put it together. And so my clothes were made. I didn't have to worry about, or she never asked me what did I want in terms of a dress, because my dresses were always made. And my the only other thing she would buy at the time of going to school is 6 pairs of panties. So you got 6, you got to wash once a week. And so every school year I got 6 new pairs of panties regardless. So that was the way it was going when I got ready to go to school. And I have to tell you that my very first year in school, I actually started school earlier than I should have because of my grandmother. Her cousin was a teacher in another town, and my birthday was in January.
Oh.
And so it was not, the school where I should have gone would not let me come to school because my birthday was January. So I had to wait, they said, till the next year. But at that time, I could read and I could write. And, I had sense enough to be potty trained. So my grandmother asked her cousin if she could enroll me in the school where she was. And she took me to school. That's where I went for the first grade and second grade, and I did not go to the regular school until I was in the third grade. And that was a one classroom school, if anybody's listening, in Dundee, Florida. So that's where I spent my first 2 years of school. And I don't know the name of the school, but it was all the grades were in one room. Everybody that was in Dundee went to that one classroom. But that's where I started. Now my grandmother, my mother was living in I just didn't live with her. I lived with my grandmother. So I don't question that. But she played such an important role because she taught me so many things to do and how to treat people and what to expect when I went to school. And it wasn't all about clothes. I did get notebook paper and all that stuff too. So now as a grandmother, I have a pretty good idea of what I can do for my grandchildren. Did any of you have, and I know that probably some of you are not grandparents, but can you think of something that, I mean, were there children in your class or children in your school who you were aware were actually being raised by their grandparents?
Well, Faye, I had an opportunity to help raise my grandson because my son and his wife stayed with me for about 5 years before they relocated to where they wanted to be. So that was 5 years that I had to help out while he was going to school. And it helped a lot because they worked and I was there for
Mhm.
when he was leaving, when he was
Mhm.
coming back home. I was there to help out, to get him dressed, to prepare meals, and to answer to anything from the school. They authorized me to be a liaison, a person they could talk to for the child. And that helped them out so much because they had to travel to their job. And that takes travel time, took off so much time away from them trying to prepare the kids. It was such a burden. So it really helped
Mhm.
in that way.
Now, I noticed now that there's a school that's not too far from me. And I don't know if I mentioned here, but I mentioned to somebody that I went out at the wrong time of the day the other day, and I couldn't I couldn't turn the way I wanted to because of the cars that were lined up to pick the kids up from school. Well, when I was going to school, that wasn't the case. The bus brought you to the corner, you got off the corner, you walked to wherever you had to walk, no matter how far your house was away. But I've noticed that a lot of the people who are there, who are picking up kids, and I didn't see them when they dropped them off, but I'm sure they dropped them off too, look to me to be grandparents. And it's probably because the parents are working during the day. So that's, can you think of any other ways that grandparents actually step in and help with children?
I can think of a way that they do help because sometimes now in this day and age, some parents unfortunately are incarcerated. So that's one place where the grandparents can step up or have to step up because now, they are the only ones who would be able to
Mhm.
care for children. And I
Right.
noticed that. Yes.
Hmm. There are a lot of grandparents also who are foster parents. So they're raising children and they are actually, taking care of the children all the time and when they are ready to go back to school. Do you feel that there is or could be any difference in the grandparent who is helping to quote unquote raise the child while they're in school versus the parent raising the child?
I would say the difference is the grandparent has a lot of wisdom that they can impart into the child because, like we said, the grandparents have done it before. And what I did with my granddaughter before school, I called her the evening before to pray with her because a lot of times we don't know if they're dealing with some type of anxiety or, things that they may not talk about. So, but I could hear her as I was praying, she was listening attentively. So I know it was doing something for her. So yeah, we have so much wisdom that we can impart into our grandchildren. And I just have one
Okay.
granddaughter.
I
Mhm.
didn't realize that you had grandchildren, but that's a good point. That's a very good point. Uh, how many of you are, or how many of us are grandparents?
I'm a grandparent. I have 2 grandchildren.
Oh, great. Okay. I will have to count them. I have 6 grandchildren and 8 great grands.
Beautiful.
Elena, you have grandchildren.
Oh, I just have one granddaughter. She's 12.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Brenda, you didn't get there yet, right?
No, I did not. My dog, my little puppy's my grandchild.
Okay. Okay. Back to school is such an important time and such an important event. Can you think of any of the things like Elena said, she prayed with her granddaughter? Are there any other specific things other than getting our clothes and, our school supplies? Anything else specifically that the grandparents that you are aware may have done to actually prepare you or prepare your children or prepare other grandparents that you know? What have they done specifically to prepare the child for school? I can think of probably one other thing, and that was it seemed like the night before the school, the first day of school, everything, and it was almost like Thanksgiving or Christmas. Everything in the house had to be cleaned and everything had to be in place, and you just had to have your clothes ready and laid out or knew what you were gonna, because I don't know about you, but my grandmother would not let you get up in the morning talking about pressing this out. Laundry was done one day a week, and that was on Saturday, and you had to iron up everything and put it on a hanger and hang it up, and you better not wrinkle it if you got to wear it. So there was no, get up in the morning. Now my grandkids, they iron every day. They press every day. So I know it's different now, but in my household, they wouldn't, my grandmother would not allow that. You had to get all your clothes, everything ready on Saturday. So everything was ready for school the next week. What can you think of that a grandparent might do? Including, pray with them, talk to them. What do you think a grandparent might do that could help them with first day of school? Let's think about a child that's going to pre-K, because that would probably be their first time in school for more than a couple of hours. What would you, if you were the grandparent, what specifically could you do to help that child?
Well, Faye, I do remember helping them prepare their book bag. They had to have certain items for school. So I make sure they had their book bag packed already and put it in a place where they could retrieve it easily. They knew what coat they were going to wear, if it was needed to be, or a sweater. And like you said, we did plan the clothes out. Clothes were planned out prior to. And also for the meals, for the in the morning, if you was going to eat what you were going to eat for breakfast or whatever, because it's always a time, it has to be on a time schedule. You have to stay on
Mhm.
to get so they can get to school on time. And one thing too, also they did, they had to bathe the night before. You weren't messing around in the bathroom in the morning. When you're a kid, you had to go to bed at a certain time. The kid would go to bed at a certain time and take their bath at night until you can get up and just wash your face, brush your teeth, do like that to limit all that time that they waste. Get
Mhm.
ready.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And then we were in the house with my mother. There were well, there weren't seven of us. There's seven of us, but there wasn't seven of us at the time that I was there, but there were five. So, you know, everybody can't go in the bathroom and stay and be in there a long time. No. No, that's out. I can imagine that was maybe something in your house if you had five. There were five of you, all right.
Yeah, there were five of us when we came up, and that's what grandma was helping out at the house for too. You got to get on schedule, get a routine. You had to get a routine.
Mhm.
So there's five of them. You cannot get five kids dressed in the morning with one bathroom in the house. That was only one bathroom in the house.
Right, right. No, you're right. How many were in your household when you were growing up, Elena?
Just three girls.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
but I was
right.
gonna,
Three girls.
yes,
Well,
I was
girls
gonna,
can stay in the bathroom a long time.
yeah, I was gonna add to something, you asked about the little ones, you said pre-K.
Mhm.
If I had to deal with one that small at this age, I would probably try to talk to them about being kind. People, the kids are supposed to be kind to each other, and and try to tell them that people are not supposed to touch you in certain places. Talk to them about safety,
Right.
and germs and things like that. But I don't have anyone that little, but that's probably what I would
But
do.
there are so many things nowadays that we would need to tell them
Yes.
that probably, just wasn't necessary when I
Back
was
then.
going to school because I don't remember ever packing hand sanitizer,
Mhm.
you know? But that's something that each one of my grandkids has their own bottle of hand sanitizer in their book bag. It's something that they have to have. So
Mhm.
there are so many differences now, and you're absolutely right. We kind of steer away from it, but we do need to talk to them, not just the day before they get ready to go to school, but
Yeah.
as they're growing up, that people don't touch you. You don't
Mhm.
touch anybody, and
Mhm.
nobody touches you.
Mhm.
So that's something that, you have to start to tell them as soon as they're like toddlers
Yeah.
so that it's in their brains and it's stuck in their brains. And then you also let them know that if someone touches you or someone does something that you don't think is right, is nothing that's been done or you've seen here at home, then you make sure you tell the teacher.
Mhm.
In some of our other back to school episodes, we talk very much about communication. And I know, Katrina, you in two of them, you've mentioned how important it was to keep that line of communication open
Yeah.
between you and your son. So even when those kids come home, and I can tell you as a grandparent, there are some things that I learned from my grandkids that then I can share with their parents that the parents don't know.
Mm.
Because there are some things that they will say. And I think as grandparents, being wiser, being older, we have a way of finding
Mhm.
things out without coming out and asking, such a direct question. We can
Mhm.
start a conversation. We know how to carry that conversation so that we hear and we can read between the lines. And it's a good way to it's a good thing to keep that communication open so that we can relay anything that we suspect or that we think, may sound like something the parents should look into.
Yeah.
As grandparents, we're always open and, we got our ears and our eyes open
Mhm.
all the time anyway. The last time my grandkids were over, the youngest one, who's 4, said to my husband, Granddad, I want to stay with you. So he said, why you want to stay with me? You can't stay with me. She said, because I just don't have no place to sleep at home. And what she means is, she shares a room with her sister. She means she wants, because when she comes here, she has more space. So she wants to be, so, you listen to those things, and although there's nothing that can be done about it, but now, as a parent, her mom and dad can sort of help her to adjust to that and let her know, well, this is the way it is, until you get out on your own, you're going to be in a room with somebody. But that at least let us know that that's something that she's thinking about.
That's right.
You have to listen to what they're saying. I saw, I think it was a picture or something that I was reading about grandparents. And one of the things was, and you ladies can probably help me, was that grandparents are much younger now,
Mm-hmm.
much younger. Or what age you think grandparents are starting to be grandparents now?
I would think about the age of, sometimes I've seen 35, 40, and I was like a little shocked, but hey, that's just the reality, the reality of it. 35, 40. Yeah. Babies have
There are actually some that are a little younger than that,
Sure.
like early 30s, they're starting to be grandparents. Yeah. So, it's grandparents are always going to be around. And yes, they're starting to be younger. So the hope is, though, that those grandparents can remember something that their parents taught them so that they can pass it on down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about myself all day, but I have to tell you this too. I look very much like my mother, very much. And when I walk in, my sisters say, here comes Jenna May. So I said, I was with my family over the weekend, and I said to them, I guess I will have to keep coming to these family functions so you all will know what your grandmother looked like.
Wow.
Because there were, my nieces there who did not know my mother. So that's, and so grandparents have a role in many, many different ways. And one of them is to be around, to share with your nieces and nephews and your children who have not been able to meet your parents, to share with them.
Mm-hmm.
How are we doing with our projects? Let me bring you up to date. The Joys of Living Great is in the process of doing some things that will bring joy to everyone through books, through media. We'll have audiobooks, we'll have print books, whatever way fits you in order for you to hear about and hear the books and the joys and the affirmations that we're going to share with you. You will have choices on how to actually receive that information. So a lot of it you'll receive right here on the Joys of Living Great episode every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or stay tuned, keep with us, and make sure you go to Facebook and join the Facebook group, which is The Joys of Living Great.
Mm-hmm.